This is Kahoot 101, the webinar Wednesdays edition for June 28th. My name is Zainab. I am your host today. I'm also a senior customer success manager with Kahoot. And I am joined today by my trusty partner, Galilea Morales from the account management team. Gali, did you want to hop in and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Zainab. Welcome, everybody. I hope that you have a lot of takeaways today. Please feel free to leverage the chat. I'll be in there answering questions that pop up in real time. Zainab is going to be covering a lot of good information for you, so please feel free to take advantage of this time to ask questions. But nice to meet everybody, and I hope you have a good Kahoot 101.
Yeah, I hope everyone has fun. And if you see questions in the chat that you know the answer to, or you have ideas about it, feel free to respond to questions from other participants because this is a community and we are here to learn from each other. I'm going to go ahead and move over to the next slide. So getting us all kicked off with a drop-in question. Pin your current location on the world map. On this screen, as the question is being asked, you can see how much time is left. The timer is always on the left side of the screen, and the number of answers you've already received are on the right side. Let's see.
And then your audio is just a bit loud, so you were washing out there. Just a little quick heads up.
Thank you so much, Callie. I'm going to go ahead and reduce the computer sound so the music is a little bit lower, and you can do that from here at the bottom, so you can control the volume of the music in Kahoot. So we see that most of the participants are from the US, which makes a lot of sense considering the time, but I also see the rest of the world in here. If whoever this is, if you're in the ocean, I hope you're on the sturdy boat. The ocean does not want us near her these days. Things are not looking good. So you all in the ocean, best of luck. Kahoot is used by 97% of the Fortune 500, and I love having this slide here because a lot of the times when you hear about Kahoot, you think of schools, or you might have heard about it from a young individual in your family, like your kids or nieces, nephews, because they use it at school, and it's thought of sometimes as a tool that's used in schools, which it is, and it's super popular. But it's also used by a large number of corporations of all sizes and industries for a lot of purposes, including training, meetings, employee communication, partner communication, and engagement in essentially all forms of communication. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be talking about just the introductory basics of Kahoot. And the agenda includes experiencing a training through a live Kahoot, which is what we're doing right now. This is our live Kahoot. And then we're going to look at how to navigate through the platform, how to create a Kahoot, and how to host Kahoots live as well as self-paced. And hopefully we'll have fun while learning all of that because that's the mission. Kahoot makes learning awesome. Getting us started with understanding who the audience is. Do you already have a Kahoot subscription? Let's see what this poll shows us in terms of the demographic breakdown. So we have 5 participants who have a free account. We have 4 participants, which is 17% of the audience, who don't have a Kahoot account at all. Hopefully you'll have one by the end of this conversation. And then we have 63% or 15 individuals in the audience that responded who already have a paid Kahoot subscription. Galilea would be the perfect person to get help from in terms of wanting to figure out how to switch over to a plan that has access to some of the features that I'm showing, or how to set up a paid account if you don't have one at all. Just also trying to understand where the knowledge level currently is. How well do you know Kahoot? Have you only heard of the name? Have you played it as a participant, hosted it, or done both and you know how it works and you love it already? Okay, this is looking really good. So 31% of the audience already knows and loves Kahoot, which is wonderful music to my ears. We have 38% of the audience, or 10 participants, who have already played a Kahoot. 6 of you have already hosted, and 2 of you only know the name. So hopefully you will go away with wanting to have been a host in addition to already being a player today. I'm going to try to customize the information I share today as much as I can to fit whatever you're wanting to get out of this training. So let me know what you're hoping to learn out of this 1 hour that you're spending with us today. This is an open-ended question. It gives you 250 characters to type out your response, and I've added a minute and a half so you can think about it and share what you truly want to get out of this meeting today. And while you're putting in your responses, I'm going to go ahead and have my second cup of coffee for the day. Okay, let's see. We're going to go ahead and click on show answer so we can see all of the answers that were submitted by all of you. Let's see what we're wanting to learn today. Learn how I can best use this as an engagement tool in our company. Learn more about hosting Kahoots for online trainings and meetings. We got that covered today. Tips for creating Kahoots. I have a whole list for you. General presentation tips, getting tips to improve my Kahoots. I'm hoping to be able to use Kahoot for my future training sessions where online or remote training is in high demand. How to start creating Kahoots that can be used by multiple people in our team. That's a good one. We're going to start off by talking about workspaces. And if you put your stuff in the team workspace, multiple people can use it. So we're going to cover this today. Unfortunately, we're not going to be talking about courses in this session, but we have a webinar on July 12th, which is going to be almost dedicated to courses because we're discussing self-paced learning, and courses are an excellent tool for that. So we're not going to be covering courses today for onboarding or different purposes, but July 12th at 9 a.m. Central, we're going to be covering self-paced learning in our deep dive webinar, and that's going to be an excellent place to learn more about courses. A lot of the other responses also seem very similar to the initial one. So I'm really glad that you all have somewhat of the same expectations. So I can go ahead and make sure that you're learning the basics, learning about engagements, getting tips on how to improve your Kahoot quality, and then how to use it for presentations and live trainings. Now, starting off with, what does Kahoot have to offer? How does Kahoot engage the audience? Kahoot engages the audience through 10 different question types. So we have 5 question types for testing knowledge and another 5 for collecting opinions. And you decide how you want to engage your audience. Are you trying to test their knowledge or figure out if they've really retained the information that you're sharing? Or are you just trying to hear them out or start a conversation, create some engagement? You have the top 5 for testing knowledge. They have a concept of right versus wrong, and they can have points associated with it. And then you have the bottom 5, which are for collecting opinions. There's no right or wrong. We just want to hear the audience out. And then that's the engagement element of getting feedback or input from the audience. There's also an element of sharing information. So you can either build presentations within Kahoot. If you have a smaller, simpler slide that needs less text, just go ahead and add it in Kahoot like this one. So this is a header. This is a text body, and it does have a short limit for how many characters can go in here. It's just 250. So if it's a quick piece of information that needs to be shared, you can go ahead and just put it in the Kahoot slide templates. We have 10 different templates. They're all PowerPoint style layouts, and it's very easy to get started with building those out. But if you had more training material, if you have long presentations, if you're preparing something as a full-fledged multi-day learning and you've already created the training material either in PowerPoint, Canva, Google Slides, Keynote, a variety of different tools, you can import that into Kahoot. So you don't have to present elsewhere and then come in and ask questions from Kahoot. You can go ahead you can go ahead and put everything inside Kahoot so that your slides have questions interspersed throughout the presentation. And the engagement element is not just limited to the start or the end of the presentation. You can have questions pop up at any time you want. And we'll look at how to build that import as well as the connection with PowerPoint later today. Once you've created your Kahoot, so you've put in your PowerPoint presentation or your Kahoot slides and you've added the questions that you needed, you can either start the Kahoot live, which is what I've done today. It's a real-time engagement. Everyone's present in the same room and they're engaging. Or you can do an assigned Kahoot, which means that you don't have to schedule a giant meeting. You don't have to look at multiple calendars or different time zones. You can go ahead and simply put a link to this Kahoot in a communication tool like Slack or MS Teams, or you can send it through email, and everyone who receives that invitation will be able to play through the Kahoot at their own pace up until a deadline, and then you'll have the podium. So a quick question to see how many of you were really paying attention. How many question types does Kahoot offer? Another thing I'd like to point out on this screen is that in addition to having the timer run down on the left side, there's also a button called labeled skip on the top right corner, and it's always there. If you're wanting to skip through the rest of the timer, or if you see, hey, I have 40 people on the Kahoot and 39 of them have responded and it's been another 10 seconds, the last person's not responding, or you're running short of time, you can't skip through the rest of the timer. So you don't always have to wait for the timer to completely run down. You can control the pace at which Kahoot moves by using the skip button. And I love this question type. It's called the slider. And I love the animation that it has when the question is being asked, but even more so, this little game show type animation when it's sharing the answer. And the correct answer is Kahoot offers 10 different question types. 17 of you got it right. So let's take a look at the podium. PC at the top, followed by Astrid and VR. Now, my question to you is, even though all of these individuals got the answer right to have earned the score, why did BC score higher than Astrid and then Astrid higher than VR? What's going on there? So whatever your ideas are, throw that in chat and let us know, why do you think some people got higher score than the others? Let's see. Vandana says time. Thomas says speed. Speed, answer time, speed like Jeopardy. Yes, exactly. So the faster you are, the higher score you will earn. The standard points are 1,000, double points are 2,000, and scores decrease linearly over time. So let's imagine I spent half the timer and then answered the question, I'll get probably half the score. So the faster you are, the higher the score will be. From a game perspective, it increases competitiveness, but from a learning perspective, it ensures that everyone is paying attention so that as soon as the question pops up, they are able to put in the answer. Okay, so it's time to look at the good stuff. I'm going to hop out of the Kahoot that we're playing and hop into my Kahoot account. And I love doing this because it also shows you how easy it is to leave the game where it is and navigate into another tool or platform, another window in your computer. So if you're doing a real life training, then you don't have to stay stuck in Kahoot. Let's say you're training them on your CRM or any other internal tool. You can leave the Kahoot game wherever it is and move over to that other tool, demo that, and then return to your game. So I am inside my Kahoot account. I have a 360 Spirit Premium subscription. So if you have a different subscription, it might look slightly different from this, but the layout of the tool and the options are very similar. This is my company's logo. So not just Kahoot, but because I work at Kahoot. So whatever your company's logo is, if you add that into setting, you'll see it here at the top. The first most important thing in the system is to look at the workspace that you're in. Kahoot has 2 basic workspaces. You can have as many as you want. You can keep adding to it. But whenever you have a Teams account, Kahoot's going to have 2 basic workspaces. The first one is your private workspace, which is a personal space. It has the free subscription attached to it, and it is for you to have fun with Kahoot. You can use it with your friends and family. You can play games on the Discover tab, any ready-to-play content, or even create your own. But when you have a paid subscription, your company's paid features are going to be in the team workspace. That's where the paid features are. That's where all of your other team members have been added. And that is the space that has the shared library that has the team folder, which is where you want to save all of your materials so that everyone has access to it. So whenever I log in for the first time, I'm going to be in the private space. I have to remember to move over to the Kahoot at Work, which is for me, the team space. So I move over to the team space. And then when I look at the library, I see that there's a My folder and a Team folder. If I was in my private workspace and I went into the library, I'd see that there's just a My folder because that's my private workspace. So I'm going to go back to the team workspace, hop back to the library, and the team folder is where you want to save all of your team's contents. You can go ahead and add further subfolders in there for organization purposes, as many as you need. Organize it as however you need it to be. So for me, I have the webinar Kahoots, I have my internal trainings, and I've numbered these. I personally feel like numbering the folders makes it very easy to find stuff. So I can go into any one of these folders, for example, this one. And here's the Kahoot that I'm running today. I went in here and I hit start and I selected classic mode to start this Kahoot. And what classic mode does is it allows everyone to join in as themselves. You are asked for your email address because I have the player identifier setting turned on from here. And then you're able to put in your nickname and then you play against other participants in the webinar. If I select team mode instead, most of the experience remains the same, but once you log in, you're selecting not just your nickname, but also the team that you want to be a part of. The host can decide how many teams you have and what the teams are named, or I can leave it open-ended and the participants can name their own teams. The score in the team mode is going to be a combination of the individual scores. So you use your own device, you answer questions on your own, but then the score is collated and the team score is a mean of the individual scores. It's still out of 1,000, but everyone's score contributes towards the team score. It's really good for larger audiences because it makes sure that everyone stays engaged till the end of the game. Otherwise, if you have 50 people and I end up being in position 48 in the first few questions, it's going to be really hard for me to climb back up to the top, and I might lose motivation to answer quickly because I know I'm not going to see my name on the podium. But if we're doing team mode, then I'm going to know that I have an impact on the team's position up until the last question. So it's really good for creating competition and also for engaging a larger audience. Next up in the other game section, which isn't always super obvious, so I'm going to highlight this here. We have additional game modes that are currently available on all subscriptions to try for free, and they are currently available indefinitely. So there's no expiration date on this right now. I would say try all of these out. These are great for review activities at the start or end of the day, energizers throughout your training, creating fun ways of learning content because they help with memorization and rapid recall. So you can try these out in your subscription, and they're really good for having just a different experience with the same information that you could have played in classic mode or team mode. Right now, we don't have reports for these, so they are more of a fun engagement learning activity as opposed to a testing activity. Returning back to my account, that was the start or the live option of Kahoot. I can also assign the same Kahoot. I don't have to create a different file. I can take the same Kahoot, hit assign, and choose a deadline for it, or not have a deadline at all. Or if I have a deadline, I choose how long I can leave it open for, which is typically 1 month. And I can choose who has visibility into this assignment. So I want everyone in my account to be able to see this. Do I want the question timer turned on or off? In a live Kahoot, it's always on because you want people to move through at the same pace. In an assigned Kahoot, you can turn it off so everyone takes their own time and finishes it at their own pace. If I want to capture their email address, I would leave the player identifier turned on. And once I hit create, it's going to essentially create a report that's currently empty, and it's going to get filled up with player performance and the performance of the content as people play through it. How do I get people to play through it? I click on Add Learners. I can either send them invitations through their email, or I can grab this link or QR code and paste it in any communication channel. It could be email, it could be MS Teams, Slack, whatever I use for communications. I love the QR code option because you can add it to a newsletter, you can add it to an email, you can even print it out and put it up on a physical space. So if you're wanting people to give you feedback on a event, you can print out these QR codes and put them on the different spaces or surfaces within that event space so people can just scan and fill out that Kahoot. I also have this one client that gave me a wonderful idea of doing a scavenger hunt through Kahoot. So you scan the QR code, you answer a few questions, you get a hint about where the next QR code is. You find that location, you scan the QR code again, and you play that Kahoot. So a lot of fun stuff can be done with the assigned version of Kahoot. You don't always have to have people gather in a giant meeting and then have them play through the Kahoot together. So that was navigating through the platform and learning how to host Kahoots live and assigned. Now, wherever you are in the platform, whether home or library or reports, there's always a create button on the top right. And I'm going to go ahead and create Kahoot. And this is going to be our last segment for the day. And we're going to spend a lot of time looking at this. This is how to create a Kahoot. And it looks different. So if you've used Kahoot before, it looks different now. Referring back to my joke at the start where we had Google CEO talking constantly about AI, we have AI. So Kahoot now has a AI assistant, which is a question generator, and it's going to dramatically reduce the time that it takes to build a Kahoot. So from the beginning, you don't have to think of all the questions you want to ask. You don't have to come up with, you know what the right option is. But with quiz type questions, you have to think about what the other 4 incorrect options are going to be. You don't have to do any of that. The system will do it for you. So let's go ahead and search for something. It's Pride Month, so I'm going to search for Pride. Say, what is Pride? And I forgot to say this in the beginning. Happy Pride for anyone who's celebrating and supporting. Happy Eid for anyone who's celebrating today. And happy summer to all of us. I'm a summer person as opposed to a winter person, so I'm just very happy these days. As the system's working on generating these questions, it's going to give you a list of 10 questions on whatever topic you put in, along with all of the answer options, and it's already going to highlight what the correct option is going to be. At the moment, all of the questions that it generates are going to be the quiz type format, but we're working on adding other question types. And it's very easy for you to switch from the quiz type to any other question type within the platform. So, what is pride? Oh, it's looking at the literal definition. Okay. AI does require you to be pretty specific. I know all of those jokes about software developers being like, we're never going to go out of business, because if we were going to be put out of business by AI, the product managers would have to define very exactly what they need, which they don't always do. So let's see. I'm going to add a couple of these questions in here just so it gets me started. And I have 3 questions. I'm going to remove the sample one. I have 3 questions in here. I see this question, and the definition from the dictionary is this. I can just go ahead and switch it over to type answer and say this is the correct answer. So I have a lot of different options available for how I want to change it over to different question types. I can choose how long we have or what the point system is going to be. And once I've gone through the initial few questions, I want to add more. I can go back to the question generator by clicking on add question, and then I can add more details. So history of pride. So it's going to go ahead and give me more options to add, and then I can add more options. I can keep changing the topics as well. So for example, if I was training someone on sales or sales skills, I could start off with, what are different sales techniques, get a few questions about that, then go into what is spin selling, get a few questions about that, what are closing techniques. So I can keep giving it different prompts, and every time I give it a prompt, it's going to go ahead and give me a new set of questions. See, this is more like it. I had to be more specific. So what year was the first Pride March held? It was 1969. I actually didn't know that. I'm going to go ahead and add a bunch of these questions in here, and I'll go back and take out the incorrect ones. So very easy to delete it. I can also decide how things are going to move around. So I can go ahead and rearrange these questions however I need. And then my Kahoot needs a starting point. So an opening slide would be nice to have. I'm going to go ahead and add a big media slide. I will put in images so I can look through the built-in library of Getty Images and Unsplash. I actually really like GIFs, and we have a Giphy library, so why not take that? Oh, nice. I like this. So I'm going to put this at the top, and then whenever you're wanting to see what your Kahoot looks like, you can go ahead and hit preview and just move from one question to another so you can see what the final experience is going to be. I also have this rainbow in the background, which you can see here at the Zoom at my Zoom background as well. It's actually a theme inside of Kahoot. So Kahoot offers themes that get applied like a skin to your entire Kahoot experience. And we have a lot of free ones that we build and add to from time to time. We have a few that are very in touch with whatever's happening in the world. So holiday cheer, Halloween, Thanksgiving. I think they had a really hot Christmas in Australia. So there's like a beach frosty, there's also a surfer Santa. So whatever's happening in the world, there's something related to that in here. Or you can just build your own theme. For example, this right here, this is our team in Austin. That little human is me. And then this is the rest of our team. I think this is Gally. So this was a picture taken during one of our training sessions, and I uploaded that as a background. So whenever I want to host a Kahoot internally with my team, I can go ahead and use something very specific to my team. It could be our company branding or any image that I want. So we've looked at the basics of, where this is where you add questions, this is where you add slides, and you get started. But if you think about your Kahoot creation a little bit more systematically, and here's where my recommendations are going to come in. If you think about your Kahoot creation a little bit more systematically, I'd say there are 4 elements to creating a really good Kahoot and a full experience. Starting off, whenever you start building your Kahoot, what is the feel that you're going for? So I'm going to start off with themes. Themes is part 1 for me. You can either have a theme that you're building from scratch. So I can go ahead and add my company's logo, upload my backdrop, and pick what my brand colors are. For example, with Kahoot, it's purple, like this shirt. So I can pick that color in here, whatever it is going to be for contrast. So you can customize that completely and save it. You can save it for the organization or save it just for yourself, or you can use one of the existing ones like I'm doing right now by using this one. So the first step is your themes. The second step are your settings. There's some basic stuff in settings, like the name, which is audience facing. So you want to name it something that you're okay with the audience seeing. Any description or details you need, which are internal, can go in here. Having a thumbnail, which just makes your Kahoot account look more organized. Just go ahead and add an image either from our built-in libraries or upload it from your computer. And then here's where the recommendations start. You choose where to save your materials to. Save it to the team folder or a subfolder within the teams folder for organization purposes. When you put it in here, everyone else in your account has access to it as well. So all the other license holders, and it makes it super easy to collaborate and share materials with one another. You can add a video in the lobby, which is what I had done when you logged in and you saw the Google CEO talking about AI. It's a really good way of making sure that you're not having to make small talk and people aren't getting bored as they're waiting for everyone to join in. They can be watching a funny video that can come from YouTube. It could be an internal video or an orientation, something that you needed them to watch anyways. You can make use of that time. Or you can just add a filler, which is funny and engaging and make sure that people are engaged while they're waiting for others to join in. You can choose the music from here for your Kahoot. We have a lot of different options. They're all our proprietary music, and it's kind of a similar music, but in different versions of the same thing. You can listen to what it is, and then whichever one you like, you can go ahead and select that. If you choose a video, then you can choose a music here. But if you don't have a video, then you can choose that music, choose the language that all the buttons and the Kahoot is going to be in. Whatever text you've put in, you can put it in any language. That's on you, the questions and the answer options, but the skin of the experience, the buttons, the prompts, those are the ones that you can choose different languages for from here. Visibility is going to be for your organization, unless you wanted to share it outside your organization by having a direct accessible link, then you choose unlisted. And do you want others to be able to duplicate this or not? Once you've figured out your settings, so you have your theme, you have your settings, you've decided what your music and lobby is, that's when you go ahead and start adding your materials. If you have training material prepared already, you can go ahead and click on Add Slides, select Import Slides, and you can import up to 80 megabits of a file from PowerPoint, Keynote, or PDF. So if you're using something like Canva, Lucidchart, Google Slides, you can download that stuff into PDF and import it into Kahoot. I can select Upload File, and then if I search for this, there we go. This presentation that I made, it's going to go ahead and convert each slide into an image of itself, which means that once they're inside Kahoot, they're not editable anymore. Once they're inside Kahoot, they are completely turned into an image. And any changes that need to be made would need to be made in the original tool that you created it in, but it is very easy to update. So if you have 50 slides that you've imported, you can delete just the one that needed some changes and import just the one back and put it in the right space, because you can drag things around. So while it's importing, I don't need to watch this. I can also just keep editing, or it's done already. So wonderful. These are all of my imported slides. So now I can go ahead and move these around. Let's say this is my heading, so I want this to be at the top. And then this is my agenda, so I'll put this here. And I might want to have an opening question. So the question comes here. Then I might want to have a couple more slides. So I'll take these two and put it next to the question. So this way you have your engagement and you're presenting, you're talking through your slides, a question pops up, then you're talking through the rest of your slides, a question pops up. So the engagement is built inside the whole experience and you're not having to navigate between two different platforms. If you do very much like your PowerPoint as the main presenting tool, and if you like transitions, or if you have slides that have a build up, so they slowly show different components of the process, then you can have PowerPoint as your main tool, because we do integrate with PowerPoint. There is separate help material available on our website on how to make that work. Kahoot can be embedded inside a single slide in the PowerPoint presentation. So you're going through your slideshow, and then a slide pops up that has Kahoot embedded in it. You play through the whole Kahoot and you move on through the rest of the presentation. So you can use either one as the main tool. Kahoot is the main tool whenever you want engagement throughout the presentation. PowerPoint is the main tool whenever you really like your animations and graphic, you don't want to lose that. And it's okay to have the entire Kahoot played together. So those were your slides. And then I'm going to go ahead and look at our different question types. So we have got themes, settings, presentation, questions. We looked at this earlier, so we have 10 different question types, 5 for testing knowledge and 5 for collecting opinions. On the testing knowledge side, our most frequently used question type is quiz, partly because it's the first option and it gets added as default, but also because literally every question can be asked as a quiz type question. But what I want to say today to you is don't use quiz type question all the time. Don't. There are so many other question options available that if you mix and match the different question types, your audience is going to have a lot more fun. So you can ask every question as quiz, but it's more fun if you use the other question types. For example, if this is the correct response, what color represents the LGBT community? If it's purple, I'm going to select this. I can switch it over to type answer and say this is the correct response. And I can take away the other options because I don't have any other acceptable responses. I can also always add an image in the middle, which usually is a good idea because it helps in creating that visual engagement. I'm going to put that in here. Similarly, if I wanted to switch it over to true and false, I can say purple represents the LGBT community, and I can say true. I can also then do slider, and slider could be a good one for slider would be the year question. So what year was the first Pride March held in? And I know that the correct answer is 1969 because I learned that from our AI assistant. And I can say the range is from 1930 to the year 2000, or I'll say 1950 to the year 2000. And now I can say, okay, well, if you're a little bit off from the correct response, like even if you say 1973, I want you to be able to have a few points. But if I want to have the exact answer, I can turn the answer margin down to none. So this is a really good one for numbers type questions. Puzzle is a really good one for a process type question, or arranging in the order of preference, larger versus smaller. So the question will be displayed on the screen, and then the different options will be, you'll need to list them in the right order, and then the participants will see it jumbled and need to put it back in the correct order. So all of these are for testing knowledge. You have to tell the system what the right response is. With collect opinions, you don't have to tell the system what the right response is. Everything's right because they're opinions. Poll looks very much like quiz, so you can have anywhere between 2 to 6 options. And the recommendation here, if you are using the quiz type or poll type question, the options don't always have to be words. You can choose for the option to be an image that you either upload from your computer, or you can go ahead and select from one of our built-in libraries. So either upload the image or select from one of these options in here. So it doesn't always have to be words. You can get a little bit more creative with this. And when you preview this, this is how it appears. So they typically look really good. Then you have drop-in, which we experienced at the start of this training. We have word cloud, which allows your audience to have 20 characters. So it's just a word, and it quickly creates a visual of what the audience is saying. So if the same words were used more often, then they appear bigger than the others. And all of this gets recorded in the report, so you don't have to take notes or remember what people said. Same thing for open-ended. It gives everyone 250 characters. We experienced this in the beginning. And the last thing is brainstorm. This one's my favorite, and it has a little bit more detail to it. So we're going to experience this at the end, but it enables you to ask for more than one opinion. So you ask a question and then you say, I want my audience to give me anywhere between 1 to 5 ideas. It's a great way of hearing out everyone. You might have 300 people in the call. You'll be able to hear everybody out in the designated time, which could be 1 minute, 2 minutes. Everyone's opinion will get on the screen, and then you'll be able to visually see what people are thinking of. So that is how you create a Kahoot. Select your theme, select your settings, put in your training material by adding slides or importing them, add your questions. You can then hit save. And I didn't finish my settings in the beginning, so it's asking me for the title and description, but once you put that information in there, it will save. I'm now going to go back to my Kahoot game, and a really good heads up before you return to your Kahoot game is to let the audience know, hey, if you have cell phones, wake them up. Because if your cell phone has gone dark, it might need 5 or 6 seconds to reconnect. And if the following slide is a question, then they're going to lose out on 5 or 6 seconds to answer. So everybody wake up your devices, make sure it's still connected to Kahoot, and then I'm going to go ahead and ask you a question. So I was away for a good 15 minutes and it's still running, no interruption, no issues. Some people may have seen a reconnecting or disconnected option just depending on their device memory and internet connection. I'm going to go back to full screen. So self-paced Kahoots would be a great tool for which of these? And there are multiple correct options, so you can kind of read through all of them. What would be a good idea to send people a self-paced Kahoot for, which is the assigned option? Absolutely. So the right answer is all of these. You can send a pre-training evaluation before people come to your session, a post-training survey to make sure that they've actually understood what you said and it's been retained. And any non-trainer-led knowledge-based session can be done completely through a self-paced Kahoot. I typically recommend that if there's something that you're sharing as a PDF or as an email right now, immediately convert that over to Kahoot, because with an email or a PDF being sent out, you don't know if they're reading the whole thing. And even if you had some sort of record or general trust, which we should all have, you don't really know how much they understood it. But if you're sending it through Kahoot, you have the material in there followed by a few questions. Looking at the report will tell you who understood which questions, who needs a little bit of follow-up, who needs a little bit of help. Let's take a look. So the scoreboard has changed. Not even going to try to pronounce this, but the snowman dude with the mustache is at the top, 1906. PC is in the 2nd position. VR is retaining their 3rd position. The arrows indicate that the position for these individuals has changed, and the highest climber has been this individual right here who climbed up to 8 places, Katie. The last thing I'm sharing today in terms of a learning item is our additional game modes. I know I demoed this earlier, but again, when I put this up here, this is going to be a game changer for how you do review activities and do memorization or practice sessions. So please try out the additional game modes. They're currently available on all of the Kahoot at Work plans. Now, I know that the chat has been buzzing. There have been so many questions in there, and Galilea has been answering them. Your fingers must be on fire, but I'm going to go ahead and take a look at any questions that might still be unanswered. Oh, it's pronounced as ZZ. That's twice of my nickname because everyone at work calls me Z. I see that all the questions have been answered. Anybody else who has any questions, any comments, any input, throw that in there. Jessica says, is there any way to change answers? Unfortunately not. Once you put in the answer, you can't change it. It's pretty definitive and it moves really fast. Any other questions? Can a Kahoot be bilingual? Because you're the one making the Kahoot in terms of what the questions are and what the answer options are, you can absolutely add in whatever language you want. So for example, some questions could be in Spanish, some could be in English. But if that's not what you meant, then the other option is that your Kahoot file, if you create it in English, you can duplicate the same Kahoot and translate it into Spanish. The translator in the system only impacts the button. So for example, if I save a Kahoot in Spanish, it's going to relabel this button. It's going to relabel the settings inside my Kahoot options, but it's not going to change the content. So the content you can add in whatever language you want. If you import a PowerPoint, can you see speaker notes on slides as a presenter? You can't. So that's also one of the reasons why we built the PowerPoint integration, because some people really wanted to have their speaker notes. My recommendation to individuals who like having their PowerPoint inside Kahoot is to just have a separate window open on your screen that's not shared on your Zoom, because Zoom does allow you to pick a window that's being shared, and you can have other things open on your computer that aren't being shared. Like I have a little bit of notes open on my screen right now. So you can have the speaker notes open in a separate window, or you can use PowerPoint as your main tool to make sure that you still have speaker notes. We can speed up the image reveal function. It works at the same pace of the question timer. So if you have a really short timer on the question, it'll reveal faster. But if you have a longer timer, it will reveal slower. The one thing that you can do is use smaller versus larger blocks. So image reveal has 3 options. It has the bigger blocks with like 9 different pieces, then more pieces. So if you wanted to reveal faster, just have bigger blocks selected. How do I prevent players from being logged out while some of them are still logging in? That's an internet thing. So if your device has less memory and it is putting some of the apps to sleep, or if the internet connection isn't great, you can get kicked out. But it just truly depends on the connection that you have. And sometimes laptops will be more stable than cell phones. Can Kahoot translate? Kahoot can switch over from one language to another for the platform itself, but not for the Kahoot content that you've added in. If you're using Zoom to run the session, I'm guessing you can see all the participants. Can they see others? That depends. I wonder if you can all see the participant list that I have in front of me right now. I think that's a Zoom setting. So whether attendees can see each other or not, in regards to Kahoot itself, you can see who's joining in on the lobby screen, and you can see the names that pop up on the scoreboard and the podium, but you don't get a list of all the attendees, and you don't get to see all the attendees apart from the lobby screen. Only the host has that information. Any tips for image import? Drives me crazy when images aren't the same size. Can you give specs on image size? I think there's a help article, Galilea. Could you look at that for recommended size for images? If there isn't, then I'll try to follow up with the support team to find one. But it's something that a lot of customers have mentioned, where all the images don't look the same, and they appear different on the live Kahoot because they have different dimensions. So I can understand the pain there. That is a feedback that we've heard before, and we've shared it with the product team. This does work, John, with MS Teams. We have an integration available. Galilea can give you the link in chat so you can grab it. And it's a very easy integration to put together. Your MS admin just needs to enable Kahoot as an add-on within any of the channels where you need it to be embedded. Nina, will the number of characters be increased for answers or questions in the future? I think we've already had one increase cycle. I'm not aware of that being considered anywhere close on the roadmap, but it is a frequent request, and we have shared that with the product team. How do you know when to temper Kahoot usage so folks are not jaded by it? Kahoot burnout, Zoom burnout, it's all real. So there can be too much of a good thing. And that's partly why we have those additional game modes. So once you experience those, you'll realize that they feel completely different from the Kahoots that you're used to. Like this classic Kahoot mode that we have, completely different from Color Kingdom or Treasure Trove. So I think if you're using Kahoot on a daily basis, then definitely switch over the different modes. Don't use Kahoot the same way. And also use Kahoot for fun and not just training. Kahoot has a ton of ready-to-play content. And now you also have the AI assistant. So there's a lot of fun stuff in Kahoot that you can use. And as long as people associate Kahoot with fun and not just training, it can avoid the burnout. But mixing the team modes is a much better idea. Any way to increase the character limit on the presentation or course format? We don't have that yet. The character limit doesn't increase on the presentation, but on the courses, we have something called Kahoot Story. And that has a huge limit for characters. You can go ahead and add an entire article in there. So if you're wanting to share more materials, a Kahoot Story would be a really good way to add that information into Kahoot. If you use the player identifier option, can you track their progress over time using different Kahoots? Yes, you can. I am so glad you asked. Within Kahoot itself, you host, let's say, 5 Kahoots over a period of 5 weeks. And at the end, you want to see how someone did from first Kahoot up until the 5th. Let's imagine that they were all based on the same topic, but had different questions. You would go to the reports tab and combine the reports. So select all the reports and combine them. Gally can share an article on how to combine reports in the chat. Thank you, Gally. And then once you've combined them, export that report. It will have everyone's score from those different sessions. You can build, once you exported the reports, you can build an Excel file, just copy paste the final scores column, and you can build an Excel file that has Zainab, Kahoot 1 final score, Kahoot 2 final score, and you can have a graph on whether their scores went up or down. So the export feature is useful, Cynthia, for building that graph. It is a little bit of work because the report's not built inside Kahoot for showing that over time progress, but it's easy enough to export and manipulate in Kahoot. Oh, really good recommendation. There are free web resizers for images that you can use. So the specs on the media upload, Gally linked in there. If you have an image that has different specifications, you can resize this to generally. That was a really good recommendation. Thank you. Lucy asked, do all participants need Kahoot on Teams or just the host? Just the host. Participants never need to have a specific platform, like literally never. They don't have to have a Kahoot login. They don't have to have the Kahoot app. They don't need to have anything specific as long as they're able to click on the link and have a browser. It'll open up on the browser, scan the QR code, it'll open up in the browser. If they're joining the MS Teams meeting with you, then they might already be on MS Teams because they're in that meeting, but also they click the link, it opens up in the browser. Can you have reports using different games options? So currently we have reports for the classic mode and the team mode. We don't have reports for the additional 5 game modes that we've launched, but next quarter, we're going to have reports for all of the game modes available, and we're going to have 2 new game modes. Or 1 new game mode and 1 option for insta-launching Kahoots. ZZ asks, will you be talking about Hopin integration today? I would love to find out more on that. Hopin integration is a school product. So we have Kahoot for work and Kahoot for schools. And Hopin works on the Kahoot for schools side. So they do have webinars on Kahoot for schools. You can join one of those or contact our support team for more information. We're not going to be covering those on the Kahoot at Work 101 webinars because it's a school's product. For bringing in videos, is this just from YouTube? For the lobby, it's just for YouTube. For the slide or presentation, you can embed a YouTube or a Vimeo. And within a course, which is a multi-step learning journey, we're working on allowing an upload directly from your computer. So right now it's Vimeo and YouTube, but moving forward, we're working on getting the ability to upload directly from your computer. Can you split a game and send one question every week over a few weeks until all questions are answered? Well, that is a wonderful idea, and I have heard it before. It's not currently possible. You'll have to create a separate Kahoot with that one question and then set up an assignment to go out on a specific date. How do we know if we have the Zoom integration? That's a good question. So whenever you're inside Zoom, you can access Zoom apps. Your Zoom account has a section for Zoom apps. Go to the Zoom apps and see if you have the Kahoot app already in there. And if you don't, add it. If you're unable to add it, your Zoom administrator will be able to do it for you. Sometimes there's a dock that can open up on the right side that shows you all of the Zoom apps, but always, whenever you log into the app, the desktop version of Zoom or even the browser, you can see it in the app section. Those were some really good questions. Thank you so much for making this conversation so much more effective. I'm going to go ahead and hit next because I have a couple more poll questions for you as a follow-up or a closing to this fun conversation today. How well do you feel you know Kahoot now? Now that you've gone through the training and you've answered a few questions, how are you feeling about Kahoot? Also, I see one more question that I had missed. It's from Cynthia asking, are all the game modes available for Kahoot 360 and Spirit? Currently, they are. I don't know where they're going to land at the end of the day once they decide to turn off the free trial. But right now, they're available on all the Kahoot at Work plans. Okay, let's see. We already have 25 answers. I don't see the answers going up, so I'm going to skip the rest of the timer. And most of the audience feels that they know Kahoot better, which is so good to know. Thank you. What is one key takeaway from today's session? So something that you learned that you weren't aware of, something that you're excited by, or some event or training that you feel like Kahoot would be a really good fit for, and today's session made you realize, oh, I can use Kahoot for that. Janelle, I just realized another answer to your question would be Zoom integrations available on specific plans, right? So you also want to make sure that you have the right plan. As long as you have the 360 Pro for Teams or 360 Spirit, Spirit Premium, you should have access to the Zoom integration. I think everything other than the basic plans. Let's see. So this is one of my favorite parts of the entire conversation. Let's take a look. One key takeaway from today's session. Let's show answers. Funny games, branded for your company. Yes, AI question generator, player identifier, new types of questions. Doing a little bit of research. Today's session has helped with the way forward for Kahoot. That's wonderful. Varying features, better organization, combining reports, self-paced training. This is a lot of good stuff. So thank you for sharing this. And as I mentioned earlier, July 12th is going to be our Kahoot deep dive, where we will specifically talk about how to use Kahoot for self-paced learning, and we'll discuss all the self-paced tools like single Kahoots and courses. So please join us for that. And I'm going to close this off with a brainstorm just so you can experience that question. And so I can hear your feedback. What would you like to learn more about in the future? This is what feeds into all of our deep dive and the structure of this training. So we want to make sure that it continues to be an effective use of your time, because an hour in the middle of the week is quite a bit of an investment. So tell me what you'd like to learn about, and we'll make sure that it's incorporated in future webinars. And Janelle, your plan definitely has the Zoom integrations. That should be easy to set up. So I'm going to let it go down to 30 seconds and then I'll skip the rest of the timer because if you're in the middle of typing, it will still let you submit. So we'll start having those questions pop up. Now, one of the really good things about Brainstorm is that this also has AI. So what it does is it takes your responses and groups similar responses together so that you have an idea of what the audience is thinking, and it's a little bit more organized instead of just out there in the open. So it's taking some time to group or bring similar ideas together. So you have courses, assigned Kahoots. So this is wonderful. So July 12th, guys, 9 a.m. Central, July 12th, we're going to be talking a lot about this. Other game modes, how to get more data on the Kahoot reports, varying features and better organization, how to brand each presentation. Okay. This is nice. Ignore my previous post, please. Accident. Interaction with users. Okay, not sure, need more practice. Self-paced learning, tips and tricks, integration. I think we're going to do one Kahoot in September that's going to be focused completely on our integration. So that's going to be a good one for you to join. Take some time to always log into or visit the Kahoot website under the resources segment, and Galilea can add a link to our registration page for our webinars. You can bookmark this somewhere. The registration for the Kahoot 101 stays the same throughout the year, every year, but the registration page gets updated with the topic for the next Kahoot deep dive. So if you visit that once a month, typically around, let's say the third week, because the second week is when we do the deep dive. So right after the second Wednesday, if you put a reminder on your calendar to take a look at that, it is going to show you the next week, the next month's topic. And we have different topics every month. We go into a lot of detail. So we discuss best practices from a general perspective of, how to do self-paced learning, what are good ideas for that, and then very specifically how to do self-paced learning through Kahoot. So general best practices and Kahoot tips and tricks, they're both covered. I'm doing this voting. You don't actually have to vote, but I wanted you to be able to see the screen. So all of the ideas appear one by one, and you're able to either give it a star or withhold that star. We didn't actually group them together, so you're able to bring them together like this one big card here, and then you can vote on those ideas. This is a great tool for leaving with a decision made from within that entire engagement. And then it goes ahead and counts the votes for different ideas and shows you which one got how many votes and which one got the highest votes. So thank you so much for joining us today. Happy Kahooting. Have so much fun. Here is the podium for today. So let's see who won. On third position, we have JNL. On second position, we have Parsip. And on the first position, the winner of this Kahoot, someone who learned the best, is ZZ. Nice. And then the runner-ups are VR and MJ. I'm going to go ahead and share the link to this podium by copying it from here and putting it in chat. So you can copy that, replay it, brag about it, put it on your LinkedIn, let people know you did so well on the Kahoot training. Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you again next month on July 12th. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And again, happy summer, happy Pride, happy Eid.